Hi, if you're watching this video, I'll go with the assumption that you're a student of Symbiosis Center for Management Studies, Pune, second year, and more specifically, a student of International Economics. Now, there is a possibility that you're watching this video prior to a test or perhaps even the final exams. If so, best of luck for your papers. I won't spend much time for the introduction. Let's just jump right into it. But before that, a disclaimer. These videos do not intend to undervalue the knowledge that the teachers have. Their knowledge, their experience is immeasurable as compared to that of mine. This is just a small personal project of sorts, and perhaps it might give some value to students who are in dire need of it. So, no hard feelings to anyone. Let's begin. This is part 1 of a long series that will cover the subject of international economics. Now, before we talk about international economics, let's think about it. This subject is a part of the IB specialization, the International Business Specialization. Now, if we look back in SEM 3, there were 3 subjects in IB: banking operations, post liberalization Indian economy, and export import management. Now, regardless of whether you took those subjects or you did not take those subjects, I'd like to quickly summarize the essence of all the 3. They carved a path, all these 3 subjects carved a path towards international trade. Export import management, quite literally as the name suggests, export and import of India, and how to do export import, what is the tariff rates, etc., all the jargons of export import, and the entire subject revolved around international trade. The second, post-lib Indian economy, talked about the history of India and India's history in terms of international trade prior to both 1991 and after 1991. Next is banking operations. Now, banking operations as a whole didn't completely dedicated towards international trade, but yeah, there was some essence in terms of letter of credit and all these technical terms related to trade to some extent. However, if you will think about it, all the 3 subjects, as I said, carved the path towards international trade. Now, if you have seen the curriculum of international economics, the chapters that we are going to cover, the topics that we are going to discuss, all of it also dedicates it towards international trade. Because if you think about it, international economics and its theories revolve around trade and demand and supply at an international level. And the subject completely surrounds itself with trade. So, in order to understand the first topic that is there in our portion, the importance and scope of international economics, it is important to understand international trade and its pivotal role in international economics. Now, before we talk about international trade, let's not go that big. Let's scale down. Let's start from the bottom, then rise up. Yeah. So look around you, everywhere around you. The phone that you're using to watch this video, the internet that you're using to watch this video, even if it's Geo for that matter, the clothes that you're wearing, and even if the clothes are of an Indian brand, the technology that it uses and the theories that it uses to maximize profits and to minimize costs and increase production and all of that. Even the constitution that governs the sovereignty of this country, all of this has international influence to some extent. Okay, let's look a little bit above your home, the college that you're studying, Symbiosis. If we see, all of us would have heard this at least once throughout our life in Symbiosis. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakama, the world is one family. This phrase in itself talks about international cooperation of sorts. And a very similar term along the lines of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the world is one family, is another phrase. The world is a global village. This phrase has great importance as it drove nations towards globalization, that is, coming together and doing trade with other countries. Why are we talking about all this? Because we need to understand that no country at this moment can stay independent. Independent in terms of natural resources, independent in terms of means of production, independent in terms of jobs and n number of fields. You cannot afford to be a closed economy in these times. In current times, launching an attack or being in war with another country would be less profitable. Even if you captured the entire country and all its natural resources, it would be much less profitable than getting into a trade deal with them and conducting a sound trade treaty with them and creating the smooth process. Because the amount of investment that goes into war, right? Let's look back into the olden times, the 17th century. Those kingdoms, if there were two kingdoms right beside each other, the kings had pure rivalry amongst each other. The king of one state could afford to attack on the king of the other state, because when they did this attack, right, they would not destroy the infrastructure, they would not kill the people there. Some kings would, but in a broad view, the king would capture the resources, but at the same time the infrastructure would still be intact. The people would not be bothered by the change in governance, they would keep living their lives on a regular basis. And this has been there for n number of kings, right from Ashoka to other great kings, even Akbar for that matter. So when this happens, right, in olden times, it was affordable to launch a war on other kingdoms because there was little to no loss of infrastructure. The economy would be running up and running immediately after a few months, and the king would have something which was usable even afterward, if even after a war. In current times, with the advancement in technology, with the advancement in nuclear power and all of that, no country would have a conquest. When a country would launch a conquest on another country or group of countries, it would be impossible to emerge victorious out of this war, because the land would be destroyed because of nuclear radiation. The people would be devastated. There would be loss within our country as well, which would lead to a backlash of the government, of the parties, political parties. And in a broad aspect, this would not be profitable. War would not be profitable. But trade will forever be profitable, because when you're giving something, at the same time you're taking something, and when this give and take leads to a trade policy where concessions are given for what you are giving and what you're taking, rates are reduced and subsidiaries are given, and all these aspects come together, this broad picture of international trade gets into place, and the concept of the world is a global village comes together. A village in India is self-sustenant. At least was self-sustenant in old times. Now that might not be the case. But a village was always considered to be self-sufficient. That's where this term global village came into being, wherein the world has become one in terms of international trade. Not in terms of policies, not in terms of views, not in terms of religion as well, but in terms of trade.